Hey there, YouTube. Leo Walderpold. I'm smoking in a bent Mark Twain some Dan Tobacco's St. Bernard Flake. So, finally gotten out to the woods again. I took the day off work today. I decided not to work today, so I went out clay pigeon shooting, and I blasted through and missed a lot of clays. And I thought to myself, well, rather than head back home immediately or go into town and do some other stuff that I need to do, I'd come out and do a VR to Joshua in the Woods, to his giveaway contest. Now, I'm assuming I'm going to get the premise of his video correct. I'm afraid when I was watching it the other day, I was in the middle of doing other stuff, so I wasn't paying huge amounts of attention. And this video is very, very much an off-the-cuff video. I've come out to very, very close to where I was clay pigeon shooting. In actual fact, you might be able to pick up the sound of shotguns in the background. But I'm also in a place where I regularly come mushrooming. And I've actually left my car parked a little way over there because my shotgun's in it. I've got the fore end of my shotgun on me in case it gets stolen. It's useless, but nonetheless, I want to remain a little close to my car. So forgive me if you can also in the background hear the odd car going past. But anyway, I think the premise of Joshua's video was to really come out to a place of nature, or a place that matters to you, and talk a little bit about the significance. Well, as I say, I mean, I've brought you out to a place where I come mushrooming quite a lot. This is a woodland in Devonshire. That's a rhododendron behind me. That's a very invasive species. Causes a lot of problems here. And it's a mixed woodland, sort of fairly typical of this part of the country. Mostly birch, oak, beech, and quite acidic soil. But it's very, very good for mushrooms here. So, if I'm getting the premise of Joshua's video correct, what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about a couple of experiences, one experience of mine, and significance of being in a natural space to me personally. Now, as you guys all know, I'm a forester or a woodland advisor, so I spend a fair amount of my time out in a natural environment, out in the woods. It wasn't by accident, it was by design. I chose that life because I love to be outdoors, and obviously I also want to get paid to be outdoors and doing my job. So and getting paid to do what I love, which I currently do. So it has its problems, as you've seen recently. Sometimes I get desk bound, but fortunately that's not my life. You know, my life is mostly out wandering around places like this. And ever since I was a child, it's always been that way. I grew up the son of an army family, so I grew up in West Germany to start with, where the forests are very, very extensive, and I lived right on the edge of them. So as a child I spent a lot of my time running around in the woodlands, climbing trees, making camps, building bases, throwing stones at wild boar, and then getting chased by them up a tree. And generally just catching bugs, catching frogs, catching lizards. Nature was always very much the biggest, sort of most central tenet of my life, of my focus. So it stood to reason really that when I grew up I went into a profession, into an industry that carried that on. And I've travelled quite a lot of the world, always in one capacity or another, working outside in the woods, or or whatever, in a number of different environments. So, and I've loved it, absolutely loved it. And I find myself here in the UK again temporarily. For how long I don't know, but I guess we'll see. And you know, getting out into the woods, getting out into the wilderness in this country just isn't an option, unfortunately. I now live in a country which has got a population of 65 million people, or thereabouts, on an island the size, on an island which is 247,000 kilometers squared, which sounds a lot, but it's very small. And it's a high population. You can walk from one side of this island to the other in a couple of days. Up along the borders of Scotland, you can do it in 2 days. So I live in a very small country, and there is no wilderness here. There is no wilderness left in Britain. We destroyed that a long time ago. All of our centres of population are very, very close together. You can't walk for more than a few miles without crossing a road. It's a very, very busy, very overpopulated little island. And all of our woodlands, even, you know, where I'm standing now, for example, this is a secondary woodland. So yeah, of course, 1,000 years ago there would have been woodland standing here, but this has since been cut down, and then it's regenerated again. There's been agriculture here. It's been a wealthy person's estate, and it's been their playground. Basically, this is just somebody's playground. And that's pretty much what this country is all about. Everywhere you go, the woodlands, the fields, the hills, you know, they look picturesque, but they're all somebody's playground. They're all some rich person's playground, one way or another. We don't have wilderness where you can really escape to, or in very few places. But to bring it back to the point, I guess, of Josh's video, I'll relate an incident when, many years ago in the late 1990s, I was between jobs, but I was doing a bit of van driving work, a bit of courier work. And I had a job from where I lived up in Derby to go up to near Loch Ness, to Inverness in Scotland. And this was on a Friday, so I figured I'd take a couple of days out in the Scottish Highlands, as I had the van and everything else. And I got to Inverness, or wherever it was, at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I dropped off my load. I went and slept in the back of the van somewhere, and then I drove back down over the next couple of days back to where I lived. But I stopped off in Cairngorms, which is a big, well, and it's a national park up in Scotland, in the east of Scotland. Cairngorm National Park. It was December. It was very, very snowy, very cold, and more importantly, very quiet. And I took the van out to just past Aviemore, and I parked it up, and then I walked out into the woods, out into the mountains, out into the moors, through the snow. And I got to a place where there was just no one around at all for miles. You couldn't hear anything. The silence was astounding and profound, and it enveloped you like a blanket, like a thick, warm blanket. There was one sound, and that was the sound of the wind just coming off the tops of the ridge above me. And at that point, I felt so peaceful. I'd been having a lot of problems with my girlfriend at the time. I'd been pretty stressed out. So I sat down in the snow there, and suddenly nothing seemed to matter. Nothing seemed to matter. At that moment, it dawned on me that we are a tiny, tiny, tiny little cog in a machine that is the universe. We play such a tiny, infinitesimal role in it. that it's of virtually no significance. We as individuals are of virtually no significance whatsoever. And that sounds like a bad thing, but it's not. It's a good thing. It's very reassuring to know that actually you mean your life, your problems, they mean nothing. Life will carry on. The snow will still fall. The wind will still come over that mountaintop and make the same sound. The capercaillie will still call at each other. The long-tailed tits that were hopping down the little bushes nearby me, they'll still do their thing. You know, and suddenly everything made sense to me. The insignificance of each and every single one of our individual lives suddenly meant more to me than anything, and I felt peaceful. And so that's what I get out of nature. That's what I get out of being, even in a place like this, where, you know, there's going to be dog walkers, probably there's a road right behind me there. But you know, the things are still going on in this woodland the same as they would without us. The birds will still do their thing, the little animals will still do their thing, the fungi, which I come up here to collect, will still break down the organic materials and continue doing their job, performing their function in the ecosystem without us, without our problems, without our little gripes and upsets, you know, all the little niggly things that piss you off in your life. And that's what really matters, isn't it? Isn't it reassuring to know that the world is going to just be fine? The world's going to be fine. As George Carlin said, it's the people that are fucked. So there you go. I take a great deal of, of solace and comfort in knowing that. And I don't have a problem feeling insignificant. I'm quite happy to be insignificant. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. So yeah, I hope that little ramble's addressed Joshua in the Woods' premise. I'll find out when I get back to the house and I upload this video and re-watch his original video. But I hope that kind of pretty much explains where I'm at, where I'm coming from. I'm going to relight my pipe because I've been here jabbering. Peace, folks, and I'll see you guys soon. Take it easy.